Upon leaving Earth, we receive a message from Admiral Hackett, telling us how Liara found the blueprints for a Prothean superweapon capable of destroying the Reapers. Okay, back up. What do you mean she found blueprints for a Reaper-destroying superweapon? The Alliance has known about these archives for years, decades, and in all that time they never found these blueprints? I'd say this is an example of plot convenience, but that's actually an insult to plot convenience. There is no way in hell that the Alliance knew about these archives for decades and never found out about these blueprints before now. But now when the Reapers are attacking, suddenly Liara just happens to come across them. This superweapon was never foreshadowed or built up at any point in either of the previous games. It's far too convenient that we're only now finding out about this. So, how exactly did Liara find these blueprints?
We've known about the archives for decades. Why now?
Process of elimination, mixed with a little desperation.
Bullshit! There is no way that you stumbled upon these blueprints out of desperation. If the completion of this thing was so important, why were plans for it never stored inside any of the Prothean beacons? Why wasn't it stored inside Vigil? You're telling me that this device that countless species have been adding to was never discovered by anyone? Not even the Reapers obtained this knowledge from the civilizations they harvested? Okay, this is just an interlude, but a long time ago I remember reading this Game Informer magazine where Casey Hudson was being interviewed. In this interview he said we'd have to think of a plan to stop the Reapers, and that we wouldn't just come across some long-lost Reaper off button. And here we are, coming across a long-lost Reaper off button. Yeah, Casey just flat out lied to people. How does the introduction of the Crucible in any way make the story better? Seriously, I want an answer. Why should I believe that this Crucible wasn't something they just pulled out of their ass? Maybe this would have worked if we discovered the Crucible in Mass Effect 2, the game that should have been about looking for a way to stop the Reapers. On some level I might have been willing to believe the presence of the Crucible if they did a better job building it up, but they don't. They just randomly throw it at us completely out of left field. And now, the entire plot revolves around the construction of this stupid thing. And even then, this doesn't even make sense on a tactical level. Why are we suddenly putting all of our faith in this random machine that countless civilizations before this one failed to complete when we don't even know what it does or how it works? Do we even have any reassurance that it'll actually work? Throughout the game, everyone talks like they don't even know what it's going to do when it's finished. On top of that, the idea of completing the Crucible in their current situation is completely ridiculous. They said specifically that the Crucible is a construct of countless civilizations that came before. Something going back millions and millions of years, and none of them ever finished it. So why are we supposed to believe that we have a shot at it? Maybe it wouldn't be so ridiculous if it wasn't for the fact that the game ends with the Crucible being completed 100%.
And the Crucible?
Ready, except for the catalyst. But there's no way to hide the ships we'll be sending at Cerberus.
This has got to be some kind of joke. Millions and millions of years of previous civilizations failing to build this thing, and now all of a sudden these guys managed to magically put it together in the span of a few months. And it's not like the Crucible was like 95% complete when the humans, Asari, Turians, and so forth started working on it. No, they show you that it's only half done. Oh, but don't worry, they do take the time to explain how they're building it so quickly, in the stupidest way possible.
How's your progress on the Crucible?
Good. Our estimates suggest we've completed nearly 50% of the known work.
So quickly?
Once decoded, the schematics are designed in such a way that allows our scientists to easily translate the information. It's not Prothean specific.
Yeah, never mind the fact those languages are from civilizations millions and millions of years older than even the Prothean Empire. Keep in mind, Shepard needed the Prothean beacon to even understand their language, and the only reason other squadmates were able to understand Vigil was because he was able to program his communication so they can understand him. These assholes should not have a means to understand the languages of thousands of civilizations lost to time, unless they came across some kind of beacon or long-lost AI for all these other races, which I highly doubt. This is a bullshit attempt by the writers trying to cover their ass. And it's not like it's something you can avoid if you do a poor job getting resources. Regardless of your readiness rating, the Crucible will always be complete. You'll always get the same cutscenes of the Crucible being plugged into the Citadel, and it looks exactly the same no matter how many assets you get. So basically, the EMS that you spend the entire game trying to build up has absolutely no effect on the Crucible's completion at all. So really, there's no point in putting all this effort into getting all these assets. Why do I have to do these side quests? Why do I need to have these numbers? They mean nothing. And it really baffles me how the game is treating this discovery like it's a significant event in the story, with the absurdity of no one ever finding a trace of this thing before now. Why even have this take place on Mars? They could have easily had this happen on any other planet, at least to make the convenient discovery of the Crucible less contrived. With this trilogy constantly talking about how Liara is an expert on Prothean history, this could have been the moment where that element of her character had actual payoff. She could have found the Crucible in an undiscovered location, a place where the Protheans were secretly working on a weapon. It could even give her becoming the Shadow Broker a sense of purpose. She could have found this information using sources she didn't have access to before because she wasn't the Shadow Broker yet. But no, we have to have this take place on Mars because it sounds cool, even though the game does nothing with this location to justify this massive retcon. It makes the accomplishment of Liara finding the blueprints completely fabricated. She didn't find them because she's a persistent archaeologist, she only found them as a result of plot protection. The Crucible is one of the worst examples of a Deus Ex Machina I've ever seen. A lot of people like to say the Star Child at the end was the Deus Ex Machina, but the fact is it was there right from the get-go. Okay, so you go to Mars and meet up with Liara where you work with her to get the information. In between there's some cutscenes where the Vermeer survivor questions Shepard's loyalty, and honestly it's not worth going into. You don't need a lengthy analyst to figure out that Caden or Ashley keeping up this whole "can I trust you" stupidity is a forced waste of time. But then we come across something that's far too convoluted to hand-wave away. It's here where we come across the Elusive Man, or Tim as I'll be calling him. He explains how he sent Cerberus to Mars to confiscate the blueprints for the Crucible as part of his plan to... I can't even say it with a straight face, just let him explain it.
That's what separates us, Shepard. Where you see a means to destroy, I see a way to control, to dominate and harness the Reaper's power. Imagine how strong humanity would be if we controlled them.
Are you kidding me? Is this like some sort of elaborate joke? There is no way they meant for us to take this seriously. Tim, whose main goal was to assure human dominance in the galaxy, thinks that he can control the Reapers to make humanity stronger, in spite of wanting them destroyed in the previous game. Why? Why is he doing this? What does he think he'll accomplish by controlling the Reapers? Why does he even think he's capable of doing it? He doesn't have any means of overpowering them, he doesn't have any more knowledge of them than Shepard does, and he doesn't even have enough numbers to support him. There is absolutely zero reason for him to think that controlling the Reapers is a possible option. And I know a lot of people are gonna bring up how Tim was indoctrinated to explain a lot of stupid shit he does in this game, but that's just shitty writing. Tim was extremely smart and knew about indoctrination. He wouldn't have gone anywhere near the Reaper technology personally, so why would he expose himself to it knowing the risks? What does he think he'll gain from this? Why does he suddenly think he can easily control thousands of billion-year-old kilometer monstrosities who are beyond our understanding? Can I just take a moment to talk about how badly they ruined Tim in this game? Seriously, why is he like this? Why did they devolve him into such a brainless moron? In Mass Effect 2, Tim was a morally questionable but interesting party. He was idealistic in a way that made sense given his motivation. He was resourceful, and saw the value in cooperating with other groups as a means to forward his own goals. But here, he just views everyone as his enemy regardless of who they are. Instead of teaming up with Shepard like last time or using his charm to convince others to be an asset for him, he just tries to kill everyone. But why would he want to do that? Tim wasn't wasteful. He understood the value of resources and assets available to him. He didn't just kill the opposition or authorize inhuman experiments, and even when he didn't like it, he knew that working with others was the best option for helping out his own goals. Now he's treating his own people like guinea pigs and pointlessly ordering the death of anyone who isn't part of Cerberus. He keeps talking about not being blinded by ideals when that's exactly what he's doing. He completely gives up on his previous goals in some single-minded pursuit for power. They took one of the most intriguing characters and just made him into a generic villain. And furthermore, why are they making Cerberus the main villain of this game? I looked it up. You have 18 missions fighting Cerberus, 11 fighting the Reapers, and 5 fighting the Geth. You fight Cerberus more than any other faction in this game. How is this even possible? How did Cerberus turn into an independent military force in the span of a few months? They have a seemingly endless supply of resources and bases and always seem to be one step ahead of us in spite of constantly losing every time we cross paths. How did Cerberus become this powerful? In spite of the Reapers being the main threat, the game treats Tim like he's the main antagonist. All of a sudden, he's treated like he's the central villain when he doesn't represent the Reapers at all. Even if you import a playthrough from Mass Effect 2 where Shepard was completely loyal to Tim, they're suddenly on opposing sides with no believable transition. Even if it's possible that Tim would believe that trying to control the Reapers is a good idea, why make Cerberus the main villain? The best thing for him to do would be to help the other species and the Alliance. Help them fight the Reapers and distract them. That would buy Cerberus time to figure out how to control them. Have it so that controlling the Reapers is a secret agenda for Cerberus while their public agenda is helping Shepard. They could be collecting resources from destroyed Reapers behind the scenes. They can do that while still working alongside the others. If they work with the other races, they'd be able to retrieve samples from battlefields and figure out how Reaper indoctrination works, then come up with a plan to use that. We can even make this into a gaming mechanic, where Cerberus asks Shepard to help retrieve Reaper samples for the reason of better understanding and how to fight them. If Shepard retrieves enough samples, then Cerberus does get close to this goal, and it could be a possibility that they show up near the end offering you a viable way to control the Reapers. But no, we have to make Tim evil and put Cerberus at the forefront for the sake of the plot. This doesn't make the story more gripping. All it does is ruin Cerberus as a concept. In the previous games, they were a mysterious organization working in secret trying to forward humanity's influence in the galaxy. Here, they were turned into generic mustache-twirling villains, and their actions and motivations are not explained well enough. Why did they commit resources to attacking the Solarian and Krogan homeworlds? Were they doing it because they were indoctrinated? Were they trying to stop the genophage from being cured? Where did they get a massive army and all those ships and mechs from? Why did they attack the Citadel? So many questions with either no answer or horrible answers. And if you thought the stupidity ended there, that's not even the worst of it. Because now we go into one of the worst things about Mass Effect 3. So remember the collector base from Mass Effect 2? How the game ended with you deciding whether to destroy or reserve it? Well, that ends up meaning jack shit. Your decision regarding the base has no influence on the plot whatsoever. Because no matter what you do with it, Cerberus becomes a villainous faction. The only difference between saving or destroying it is that saving it gives you a tiny bit of EMS for your readiness rating. Why is this so offensive? Because it highlights a severe problem with Mass Effect 3. None of your choices in Mass Effect 1 and 2 matter in the slightest. I mean, remember how your squad mates made the collector base a big deal? All that haunting foreshadowing if you chose to give it to Tim?
Cerberus better than collectors still wouldn't turn base over to them. Risky. More than risky. Dangerous. Hope you know what you're doing.
Can't say I like handing their assets over to the elusive man, but at least humanity is in the clear. For now, anyway.
The fight was great, Shepard, but giving Cerberus the base was weak. This man of theirs, he hides. He was smart to get you, but a real battle master charges with his clan.
I know you're working with Cerberus, but turning over the base to them was dangerous. I hope it doesn't come back to haunt us.
I'm disquieted, Shepard. I trust you, but not the one you work for. He's driven by wrath and fear. I fear that all we've done is make him a giant.
Before we started this mission, I never would have questioned our goals. I just hope we made the right choice. I hope whatever Cerberus finds at that base is worth it.
I hope Cerberus can figure out what to do with all that tech. I also hope they don't decide to do something worse than what the Collectors were planning. Watch yourself, Shepard.
An interesting choice, Shepard Commander. The old machines offered your race what the Geth aspired to. Unity, transcendence. Now you possess the knowledge yourselves. We hope you do not use it. Your species has much potential. You should build your own future.
I am not sure it was wise to hand that base over to the elusive man. Cerberus has a very narrow view of the galaxy. Nonetheless, the choice was yours to make, and I respect that.
Fuck off!
And now you're telling me the base was nothing but a red herring? What was the point of the dilemma of the collector base if it has no influence on the plot? It was just a waste of time. Deciding whether or not to destroy the base was supposed to be a major decision that would have dire consequences. But it just doesn't. The story stays completely the same no matter what you choose. But the collector base isn't the only thing that ends up being pointless. There are so many meaningless references to Mass Effect 1 and 2 in an attempt to make Mass Effect 3 seem bigger and more important than it actually is. But it ends up falling flat on its face when you realize nothing you do holds any weight. Whatever choices you make don't actually end up making much of a difference. Kill the Rachni Queen? They just make up a second one. Save Caden on Vermeer? Give him Ashley's bitchy personality. Nominate Anderson? Udina ends up taking his spot on the council. Dissuade the Quarians from going to war with the Geth? They declare war anyway. none of the choices you made have any real lasting impact. It's all superficial. Stuff like this makes Mass Effect 3 feel independent from the first 2 games when it's supposed to be part of a planned trilogy. That's just bad storytelling. If I didn't known any better, those statements I made earlier about Mass Effect 3 being made to draw in newcomers and casual players is starting to make a lot more sense than they should. Okay, let's just keep going. You chase Eva down, she knocks out the Vermeer survivor, you kill her, and you board the Normandy on your way to the Citadel.